1. My first chilling experience, at least that I can recall. It was the first time I realized things aren't always as they seem, and that what our parents said to comfort us about the topic many a night was not all true. I was 17, still in high school, but didn't have much longer left. I was still dating my first ex-girlfriend at the time, and it's something she nor I will ever forget. Of course, we no longer talk, but it would be way too hard for anyone to forget something so extreme. We were having a nice night at her aunt's house, about 12 miles away from my house. Her parents were close to my father, as they'd known each other for well over 15 years. So we were all very close, and she was coming back with me to spend the night. It was a pretty great time overall. The ride back was great, both in great moods, don't drink, didn't do drugs, but played high school sports. I remember everything was great, up until we got to the road my dad lives on, in small town USA. It was around 11 p.m. and I remember, as I approached the road, I hit my right turn signal, and I saw this kid walking in a red hoodie and blue shorts. I immediately tried to find rhyme or reason, given the time and day, which was Saturday, and the kid looked no older than 11 or 12. What's he doing walking at this time? Is he okay? Where is he going? It's a safe town and all, but what kid really roams streets at 11 p.m? I remember just before making the turn, every bit of joy or happiness I'd felt from the night's events were completely drained out and replaced with deep depression. Hugest mood swing ever. I made the turn, and that's when I realized, this kid's trying to commit suicide at my expense, was the thought, as he turned when I did and walked right out in front of my truck. I hit the brakes and swerved to go around, but stopped right by him. Worst thing that could have happened besides turning someone's child into a speed bump. We both looked over at the passenger side window and saw his face. He hadn't stopped walking, but I was maybe a foot to the side of him. He was staring slightly upwards and his eyes were completely white. It was almost like staring a real-life zombie in the face, since his face had this look of complete cluelessness, like if someone were brain dead and drooling with their mouth hanging open. My ex panicked and screamed, "It's not real, please go, it's not real." And I slammed on the gas, lost for words, but like an idiot I hit the brakes moments after speeding off. A matter of maybe 30 yards. I looked in the rear view. Nothing, no one. I reluctantly opened my door, as to try and just make some sense of anything, hoping there would be a kid there walking. No one. I got back in, she was still freaking out, and I drove to my dad's and lost my mind. I forced him to take us on a ride down the road and through town to try and find anyone resembling the kid. The town was absolutely empty. I don't even believe we slept that night. Kept the lights on, watching comedies, tried to forget. Because not only did we know what we saw, neither of us wanted to acknowledge the fact that he never stopped walking, and he would have had to walk right through the side or back of the vehicle by the time we drove off in a hurry. It took a moment before we saw his expression and eyes, so when we swerved around him, we came to a complete stop, at least for a few moments, and he was right at the window when we sped off. Note, the most perplexing part of all was that we both knew that when we initially saw him, there were no transparent qualities, completely in the flesh, just not. He looked as real as any other real person we'd seen. And that was that. It crosses my mind from time to time, but I try not to dwell on it. Over the years I've wondered why us, why me? Why did he want me or us to see him? Was there any real reason to it all, etc.? Also tried to find out if there were any bad accidents or deaths on the road, but turned up with nothing. 2. I used to be a Mormon, and most Mormon males serve 2-year missions around the world. I was sent to the San Francisco and San Jose, California area, to my disappointment. I wanted to go to Australia. Anyway, I was stationed in Pacifica, California, which is a city on the coast just south of San Francisco. Very windy and rainy in the winter. That winter, 83 or 84, was particularly stormy and windy. We lived 1/2 block from the ocean, and the ocean spilled into the street several times. and our little kitchen was flooded. And we had to put sandbags between the kitchen and the one room we shared. 4 Mormon missionaries. We had bunk beds. Anyway, during one storm, we were all inside and it just got dark. And we were talking ghost stories, our own experiences and the experiences of others we've heard about. Just then I looked over at the entrance to the kitchen, and I saw a cloud. Suddenly the top of the cloud turned into a young man, say, about 20. He had curly hair and he opened his mouth as if to say something to us, but then closed his mouth and the look on his face was, "Hell, that won't do any good, they can't hear me." Again, he didn't say anything, but that was the look on his face. Then the cloud dissipated. I was not scared, but there were 3 other guys in the room with me. I told the others. One said he saw a cloud, but no human figure. The other 2 were not looking that way and saw nothing. Some say that if you talk about ghosts, it attracts them, and that if you talk about demons, that attracts them too. There may be something to that. 3. Now, this is my first post, and I'm not going to share all my encounters in this post, because I've had quite some experiences with the paranormal, and I don't want this post to get too long, so if any of you are interested, I'll post some more later on. So this is what I believe to be the first one of the many encounters I've had with the supernatural. It happened when I was around 4 or 5 years old, and I lived in Poland with my mom and my grandma. We didn't have a lot of money, so the only thing we could afford at the time was a small 1-bedroom apartment. My grandma was sleeping on the couch in our living room, while me and my mom slept in the tiny bedroom. My mom was sleeping on a small bed, and I was using a shelf that could be made into a bed to sleep on. When the shelf was used as a bed, there was basically no space between it and my mom's bed. It was like a small space that I could fit in, without falling to the ground. Sorry, I'm not very good at explaining. I used to wake up in this tiny space quite often, since I had a habit of wanting to always sleep next to my mom. When this specific experience happened, I woke up in the middle of the night. I'm not really sure what time it was, since there was no clock in this room. I was, like usual, in this tiny space between our beds, and I was trying to fall back asleep, when I heard some noises under my bed. I opened my eyes and lay in bed, trying to hear more clearly the noises. After a few seconds, I felt something like a hand reach out from under my bed and poke my back forcefully. Startled, I rolled onto my bed and tried to see what did this. There was nothing there, so I woke my mom up, panicking, and I told her what happened. She didn't believe me, and just told me to go back to sleep. She fell asleep after that, but I couldn't. After this night, I never slept in between our beds, and sometimes I still heard those weird noises, like something was moving under the bed and scratching the floor. At one point, I think I even heard giggling, like a little kid's giggling, and it honestly freaked me out. 4. About 5 years ago, I moved in with my boyfriend and his parents. They were the first family to live in their house, but had an eerie feeling to it, especially when alone. The house was really big by my standards. Sitting rooms, a huge kitchen, 4 bedrooms with ensuite bathrooms, and a newly finished basement, which is where my boyfriend and I tended to spend our time. When you were in the basement, you could hear anyone above you. The floors were so creaky in specific places that no one could go down there unheard. This is important later on. We were in college while living there, so it was common for one of us to go out while the other stayed in, to do homework or study. There were 2 events that I am still really disturbed by, and to this day I don't like staying overnight in that house. Both nights I was in the basement alone. My boyfriend's parents were asleep in their room, but the house is so big, they may as well have been gone. And there was no way I'd wake them up, saying what I'm about to say here anyways. First time I got really spooked, I was doing a lab report on the carpet. It's normally cold down there, so I had the gas fireplace going, which is controlled by a remote. I sat up to stretch, and the flame fucking exploded out of nowhere. There is a glass plate in front of the flames, which kept the basement from catching fire. But behind the glass, the flames moved in a way I'd never seen before, and haven't to this day. I jumped up and turned the fire off as quick as I could. I went right up to her room and tried to forget it happened. The second time, I was reading after finishing up some homework. Again, my boyfriend is out. Remember how I mentioned the creaking floors? Well, I was reading and I hear someone coming down the basement stairs. Thinking back, I should have heard him come in, or at least some movement beforehand from the floor above. But I was into my book and just said, "Hey love," when he reached the bottom, to which I got no response. At this point I'm freaking out since the couch faces away from the stairs, so my back is to whoever just came in. As I go to turn, someone grabbed my head. It was without a doubt a palm, and pushes my head into my book. With a little gasp I turned to see. Nothing at all. I booked it up the stairs and hid in my bed, trying to calm down, and I swear on everything I've ever known that those horrible fucking footsteps started in the hallway and then proceeded up the stairs to outside of my bedroom door. It fucking opened. I was quietly crying by this point, and was just waiting for whatever it was to just enter the room and give me the heart attack I knew was coming then. It never did. Again, there was nothing there. I know this is hard to believe, but to me this is all true. I have no other explanation for these events besides something in that house really doesn't like me. It was winter, and I live somewhere pretty cold, so the windows were all closed, and I know it sounds crazy, but there is no way that the door could have opened on its own, and those footprints were as real as my own. The fireplace could have malfunctioned, as I convinced myself before the footsteps. But it has never happened again. I asked my boyfriend after my experiences if he had any odd stories, and he told me that there was once a punching bag in the basement that could be seen from the top stair. He looked into the basement one day and swears someone punched it with an incredible force. It wasn't simply swinging, which wouldn't make sense anyway. It was moving with momentum. 5. I'm sorry for how long this may be, but I want to make it clear how my job works. I work as a night shift overnight guard at one of our 4 buildings, but I have worked the day shift in the other 3. The 2 where we have the most activity will be called S and H. The S is the building I currently work at, but I started working at the H during the day, but did the holiday overnight shift there from November to December. Now, there had always been rumors about these places being haunted by former employees. We do have a lot of older folks that work here, and unfortunately pass away every now and again. But I thought it was just jokes to scare the new guards. But in the recent months it's becoming an issue, especially at the H. So much so the management has been asking about it. I've been working here almost 6 years, so I'm going to try my best to remember each incident by chronological order, and to the best of my ability. Not all of them have happened to me, most of them haven't actually, but this also plays into this story, as whatever is haunting these 2 buildings either ignores me or is actually afraid of me. I'll explain why when I get to it. Event 1. This happened 2 months after I started. I was working the overnight shift at the H, and I was having the time of my life. All I had to do was a 30-minute walk around the building every 2 hours, and after that I could sit in the office, hook up my Xbox to the plasma screen TV and just watch movies or play video games. However, during one of my walks I was passing by a catwalk. I started hearing boxes moving, like someone was working. I sighed. Looks like someone got locked in again. It was early enough in my shift that it could have been someone who lost track of time and kept on unpacking. I turned around and looked up, and for a split second I saw a man wearing the company uniform, grey shirt and jeans, putting stuff away. Then I blinked and he was gone. I quickly ran up the catwalk, but no one was there. The noise had stopped, and nothing was out of place. I searched the whole area and even rewound the camera we had trained on this section, and saw nothing besides me looking for something that wasn't there. When I told my manager in the morning, she smiled and said, "Yeah, that sounds like the ghost of someone's father who used to work here. People say they see him around that area, all the time packing and picking stuff." I never saw him again after that. Event 2. This happened to my manager a few months later. She was shutting down the lights for the day, and she saw something moving across the floor. She thought it was a worker who'd been using the bathroom and called out to him. She was ready to give him hell too, since she saw him wearing a hoodie, and those are not allowed on the floor. Whatever it was, she said charged at her, well, floated really fast. She told me she never felt so much dread in her life, and ran back to the office where we were. I remember seeing her really upset and panicked, but that was the scariest part. This was a woman who has worked in our stores and has taken down and dealt with shoplifters and thugs much bigger and scarier than her. We took our flashlights and searched the floor but found nothing. Again, we looked at the cameras but only saw her running away, so it couldn't have been a worker or anyone else. Hell, if it had been, they would have tripped an alarm when they left, but no such incident happened. Event 3. This happened a bit closer to now, only about a year ago. A new guard named Nick was doing the same thing as my manager in the previous story, shutting down the lights at the H. When again he saw someone in a hoodie, this time just standing there. Like my manager, he thought it was a person who had been left behind and was about to tell them to go home. The thing in the hoodie turned towards him, and he said he felt like the air around just got cold. He got goosebumps and started to shiver. This was in July, and our warehouse does not have good AC. He hoofed it back to the office and told my manager. She told him the story above, and they both concluded, something is in this warehouse. I was not there for this event, as I was long gone, working the overnight shift at the S. He told me this story when he came in early one morning, and now refuses to work evenings at the H. Event 4. This happened back in September to me. I was working my normal overnight shift at the S, not the H, when I got up to go to the bathroom. After making the trek and doing my business, I began making the trek back up the aisle. I saw someone standing at the end of it, and assumed it was the overnight shipping manager, who was waiting for me to get out. Just as I am about to wave to him, telling him it's all clear, I realize it's something in a hoodie. Before I can even react, it charges at me, at a speed I've never seen a human run before. I tense up and prepare for impact. When I wake up in the office, I'm confused as hell, trying to figure out what the fuck just happened. I don't have to use the bathroom anymore, so I didn't just fall asleep. The creepiest part is I checked the camera, and indeed I went to the bathroom and came out. But I just walked back to the office like nothing happened. I didn't have a camera trained on the aisle. I used to come back, but I didn't look hurt or scared when I re-entered the office. But I don't remember falling asleep either. I don't know what the hell happened, but I can't find any reasonable answer as to what may have happened. Event 5. This is several stories combined into one. This happened back in November of 2016, so it just happened. This happened to me, the night guard Nick, and two new guards named Josh and Melly. They are all separate stories, but all happened around the same time. This is at the S. The third floor of the S at night is as creepy as hell, I'll admit. A big floor with catwalks, clothes hanging on racks, and when the wind blows, the vents creak and slam. I have always heard stories of something being up there, but never saw or encountered anything until this year, when we got a batch of new guards who also did the overnights on my off days. Nick and Melly had been hearing stuff on the third floor for a while. Nick has said he has heard stuff slamming into the ground and roof on non-windy days, and has said to seeing clothes move and fling back and forth by themselves, even when there is no source to move them. Millie claims the same thing, but says when she goes upstairs and tries to Facebook call with people, she will get unexplained static. Not disconnected from the call, but just static until she leaves the 3rd floor. Josh again says he has seen the same thing, but this time he felt something or someone push him just as he was about to enter the stairwell. It's a light tap, but scary nonetheless. Then there is me. I could feel something was off about the 3rd floor now. Something was watching me like a predator to prey. Then one day when I was turning on lights, I felt it more intense than I ever had before. Like it was creeping up on me, cold fingers brushing against my shoulders. But I was having a bad night, so I shouted, "Fuck off and leave me alone!" I was not having this Casper the Asshole ghost shit tonight. The most amazing thing to me is I felt it back off suddenly, like someone who was surprised. Whenever I went upstairs from then on, and still do, I can feel it watching me, but now at a much more cautious distance, no longer feeling like a predator's gaze, but more so either out of curiosity or fear. I even attempted to talk to whatever this thing is, looking completely fucking insane, but I'm by myself up there, so I don't really care. I never get a response besides feeling being watched. This has confused me a lot, since if this thing likes to screw with other people who have told it to go away, and it has not, why did it listen to me? Event 6. This is the final event, and not more so an event, but really something that's going on. At the S, things have calmed down, but at the H, things are getting worse. More and more people are claiming they see the hooded figure, even during the day. Like I said, it scared people so much that even management has been questioning what to do about it. That's it, really. I'm going to try to gather any more stories any of the other guards may have told me. I'm sorry for the length, but this is something that's really starting to interest me. I wonder if the S and the H have 2 different entities, or if they're the same one that can travel between buildings, as they are only within walking distance of each other. Another question is, why are they becoming so active now? Nothing really has changed. We have done light construction, but nothing that would disturb remains. Just tearing down a catwalk and putting new stuff in. And even then, some of these sightings have happened long before this work is started. I'll be honest, I want to find more answers about these or this thing. I'm sorry for the length of this post, but I'll happily answer any questions or even any advice or experience anyone may have with this sort of thing. The one at the S isn't really bothering me, and I don't work overnights at the H to really interact with whatever is affecting it. So it's not a problem. I'm just curious for answers right now. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Paranormal Stories, episode 35. Thank you very much to everyone who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Okay, let's see, where are we? Friday now? Alright, not sure about tomorrow's video yet, I'm still working on that. It will probably be as much a surprise to me as it will be to you. We'll see what I can put together. Okay, there was something else I wanted to say, what was it? Oh yeah, right. No, I think I covered everything in the last Q&A. But if you have more Qs you'd like me to then please send them in. And when I've got enough, I'll do another Q&A. If you want another one, I'm happy to do it. As long as I get enough, original questions. If I covered them in the last one, then I may as well just leave that as the only Q&A. Up to you guys, let me know what you think. Okay, and with that, I think I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.